Men fear armies, wealth, and titles, but they overlook the most lethal force of all, the individual who has mastered loneliness. In this video, we will uncover why solitude, often despised by the weak, becomes the breeding ground of the most dangerous kind of power. Understand this: the crowd is a prison, and companionship is often a chain. A man who relies on the warmth of others has already surrendered his sovereignty. Yet the one who embraces solitude learns to command himself, and by extension, to command others. Isolation sharpens the mind, kills illusions, and teaches the art of ruling without needing to be ruled. Tonight, we descend into the cold truth that loneliness, feared by the masses, is the crucible in which the most formidable power is forged. Power dies the moment you need someone else to keep it alive. Think carefully. How many rulers have fallen, not because of their enemies, but because of their reliance on allies, courtiers, or the love of the people? Dependency is the quiet poison of power, and loneliness, when mastered, becomes the antidote. You fear being alone because the herd has trained you to. From birth, you were told that validation, company, and approval are essential to survival. Yet look around you: who controls whom? The man who needs applause will dance like a fool for it. The one who craves loyalty will beg for it. But the one who stands apart, indifferent to both praise and abandonment, he cannot be manipulated. History remembers such figures. Consider the Roman Emperor Tiberius. He withdrew from Rome, leaving the Senate in confusion, his enemies in uncertainty, and his people desperate for his attention. From his island exile on Capri, he ruled with silence as much as with decrees. Why? Because his detachment proved he was untouchable. He did not need their affection, and in that independence, he made them need him more. Ask yourself, how many times have you been controlled by the fear of losing someone? How often have you altered your words, your choices, your true desires, simply because you did not want to be abandoned? That is not power. It is servitude disguised as companionship. Psychology confirms what rulers long understood: dependence breeds weakness. Those who hunger for belonging surrender their autonomy to the group. They conform, they silence their instincts, they follow the crowd even when the crowd walks toward ruin. Loneliness, when chosen, strips you of this weakness. It forces you to discover what you are without the mirror of others. But let us not romanticize loneliness in its raw form. Isolation destroys the weak as quickly as it strengthens the strong. A man who withdraws without discipline becomes bitter, paranoid, broken. Yet a man who deliberately embraces solitude learns to refine it into armor. He becomes immune to emotional blackmail, to the shifting tides of loyalty, to the manipulations that destroy leaders who crave constant reassurance. Think of it as this: a general who depends on the loyalty of mercenaries will one day be betrayed, for mercenaries fight only while the gold flows. But a general who can endure the solitude of command, who does not cling to the affection of hired blades, will fight as if he were alone against the world, and thus he cannot be disarmed when others abandon him. The same applies to you. Your colleagues, your friends, even your family, whether they mean to or not, can hold invisible chains over you. They expect, they demand, they persuade. If you need them too much, you will bend. But if you learn to stand apart, to walk into silence without fear, you become unbreakable. Ask yourself again, who truly has more control? The leader who fears losing followers, or the one who rules even when alone? The lover who clings to affection, or the one who remains whole when affection withers? The answer is clear. Look to modern power as well. Why do the most dangerous individuals in politics, business, or even crime often move in calculated solitude? Because independence terrifies. It signals that you cannot be bribed with comfort, nor coerced with threats of abandonment. Those who operate from loneliness are not bound to any one faction, any one loyalty, any one weakness. This is why so many cannot comprehend true power. They confuse dependence with connection. They believe that to lead is to please, that to hold people is to hold power. Yet pleasing binds you in chains, and holding others too tightly makes you their captive. Real command begins when you could walk away from all of them tomorrow and remain intact. But beware, The path is cold. Loneliness demands that you strip away illusions. You will see the hollowness of applause, the fragility of loyalty, the fickleness of friendship. Most cannot bear this sight. That is why few ascend to true power. Yet if you endure it, if you master solitude, you will discover a freedom others dare not even imagine. And once you taste that freedom, you will see how dangerous you become, because the one who does not need cannot be controlled, and the one who cannot be controlled cannot be defeated. But this is only the first step, for freedom from dependence is the foundation, not the weapon itself. In the next stage, we turn to observation, the art of watching in silence, of studying others while remaining unseen. Their loneliness transforms from mere armor into a sharpened blade. Loneliness is not just absence, it is vision. When the crowd is stripped away, when the noise of constant chatter dies, you begin to see what others cannot. Observation becomes your greatest weapon, and unlike gold or armies, it cannot be stolen. The man who lives surrounded by company rarely observes. He is too entangled, too distracted, too eager to respond. But the one who stands apart watches silently, and in his silence, he gathers the greatest currency of all, knowledge. History honors rulers who understood this. Consider Philip Tummy of Spain, the silent monarch. He listened far more than he spoke, reading reports in solitude, studying the temperaments of his ministers, watching the shifting loyalties of court. Many mistook his silence for weakness. Yet it was in this quiet observation that he learned how to outmaneuver rivals, to anticipate betrayals before they occurred, and to preserve his empire longer than enemies expected. Observation is control disguised as passivity. Think, how many times have you revealed your true self simply because another stayed quiet long enough? You spoke too much. You confessed. You signaled your desires and your fears. And the quiet observer, he walked away with more power over you than you could imagine. Psychology tells us the same. Silence makes people uneasy. They rush to fill it, exposing themselves. Those who observe without interruption learn not only what is said, but what is hidden in tone, in gesture, in hesitation. The lonely man, unburdened by the need to perform or impress, sees the cracks others miss. Ask yourself, when was the last time you truly studied another human being? Not their words, but their pauses. Not their smiles, but their eyes. In loneliness, you are granted the patience for this. Detached, you no longer hunger for their approval. You do not rush to speak, you wait. And in waiting you see. The manipulator thrives on this. He knows that most people betray themselves unconsciously. Their ambitions leak out in envy, their weaknesses shine through in their laughter, their loyalties shift in the small betrayals of body language. But only the observer notices. Only the one trained in solitude has the stillness to catch it. Consider espionage. Spies are not powerful because they strike. They are powerful because they see without being seen. They blend into the background. They are forgotten, yet they hold the most dangerous weapon, knowledge of the truth others thought concealed. The lonely mind operates in much the same way. It gathers intelligence while remaining unreadable. Even in your own life, the principle holds. Imagine a workplace. One man tries desperately to win allies, speaking loudly, making his presence felt. Another stays quiet, listens, and remembers. Has more power after 1 year. The loud man is known. His strategies obvious, his insecurities visible. The quiet man is underestimated, yet he holds a map of everyone's strengths and weaknesses. When the time comes, he can strike precisely where it hurts most. This is the true advantage of solitude. You are not seduced by the noise of the crowd. You do not drown in endless conversations. Instead, you refine your perception until every glance, every hesitation, every contradiction in speech becomes a weapon in your arsenal. But beware. Observation without discipline turns into paranoia. To watch without purpose is to drown in shadows. Observation must be sharpened, not scattered. It is a tool, not a prison. Use it to see patterns, to anticipate moves, to predict outcomes. Do not use it to merely feed suspicion. The strategist watches to act, not to obsess. And here lies the cold truth. The greatest observers often never reveal what they know. Knowledge kept secret is more powerful than knowledge spoken. Once revealed, it loses its edge, but held in silence, it becomes a sword no one sees until it cuts. So I ask you, are you capable of watching without being noticed? Of remaining in the background while others reveal themselves? Of turning their careless words into your hidden advantage? If not, you remain a pawn. If yes, you become the unseen hand moving the pieces. Loneliness makes this possible. When you no longer crave to be heard, you are free to listen. When you do not demand to be seen, you are free to see. And in this reversal, you gain an authority far greater than the one who constantly seeks attention. Remember, armies can be defeated, treasuries can be emptied, but knowledge gathered by a patient observer, outlives both. It prepares you to strike not blindly, but with precision. And when you strike with precision, your enemies never recover. But this is only half the journey. Observation sharpens your awareness, but it does not remove the dangers of your own heart. To rule, you must also sever the chains of emotion. For what use is perfect observation if you are still enslaved by affection, guilt, or desire? That is the next truth we must face. Observation gives you knowledge, but knowledge alone does not guarantee power. Many see the truth, yet they fall because their emotions bind them in chains. To command others, you must first master yourself, and mastery begins with severing the hold of attachment, affection, and guilt. Think, how many rulers have been destroyed not by enemies, but by those they loved too much? How many kings spared traitors out of mercy, only to be betrayed again? How many leaders trusted family, companions, lovers, only to discover that trust had been a blade against their throat? History is merciless with examples. Look to Antony of Rome, brilliant, ambitious, feared by rivals, yet his heart chained him to Cleopatra. He sacrificed strategy for desire, loyalty for passion, and empire for affection. His downfall was not the legions of Octavian alone, but his enslavement to emotion. The truth is simple. Affection is weakness when it rules you. Guilt is a weapon when it controls your choices. Desire is a leash when it bends your will. The masses live enslaved to these forces, which is why they remain powerless. To rise above them is not cruelty, it is survival. But ask yourself, could you do it? Could you silence the urge to forgive when forgiveness weakens you? Could you abandon loyalty when loyalty becomes your enemy's shield? Could you walk away from love if love threatened your throne? Psychology confirms what rulers knew long before laboratories existed. Attachment is a survival instinct. Humans cling to bonds because they fear abandonment. But this instinct makes them predictable, pliable, easy to manipulate. The one who transcends it gains immunity to the most common form of control. If you cannot be guilted, seduced, or emotionally blackmailed, then what chain can bind you? Consider how manipulators operate in daily life. A colleague pressures you by invoking loyalty. I thought you were on my side. A lover demands sacrifice in the name of affection. If you loved me, you would do this. A family member uses guilt. After all I've done for you. Each statement is a chain. Most obey. Few resist. But the one who cuts through these emotional traps is feared, because he cannot be controlled through the softest, most invisible weapons. It does not mean you must become cold stone. A ruler who shows no emotion at all alienates allies and inspires rebellion. The art is balance. You must wear the mask of feeling while remaining untouched within. You may appear merciful, appear affectionate, appear loyal, but only so long as it serves your strategy. The moment it endangers your command, you shed it without hesitation. Think of the lion and the fox. The lion feels no guilt in killing prey, the fox feels no remorse in deceiving. Power demands the same. When necessary, you must sacrifice attachment for survival. When strategic, you must abandon loyalty without regret. The weak call this betrayal. The strong call it victory. Even in modern times, the principle holds. Look to business. How many entrepreneurs collapse because they cannot separate emotion from decision? They hire friends instead of talent. They cling to failing projects out of sentiment. They refuse to cut losses because pride blinds them. And so they fall, while colder, sharper rivals advance. The lonely man, however, learns discipline in solitude. He sees affection for what it is, a choice, not a chain. He learns that guilt only works on those desperate for approval. He recognizes that desire clouds vision more than any fog of war. In mastering loneliness, he discovers that emotions are tools to be used, not masters to be served. Ask yourself again, do you control your emotions, or do they control you? Would you sacrifice advantage to spare feelings? Would you risk betrayal because loyalty blinds you? Or could you strike unshaken, even if the blade must fall on one you once loved? The answer separates rulers from victims. Those bound by emotional chains are led, those who break them lead. But beware, this path is perilous. To kill attachment within yourself is to step into a colder existence. Many cannot endure it. They return to comfort, to love, to dependency, and they justify their weakness by calling it humanity. Yet humanity, ungoverned, is the grave of power. If you can endure it, however, if you can wield emotion like a mask, never a chain, you will be unstoppable. For the world is ruled not by the strongest, but by those who cannot be swayed by the invisible leashes that hold others captive. And once you sever these chains, you face the next truth. That real power is not only freedom from emotion, but the ability to wait, to endure, to strike at the perfect moment. That is the lesson of patience. And patience, as you will see, is deadlier than any sword. The greatest victories are rarely won by strength alone. They are won by timing. To wait, to endure, to strike only when the moment is perfect. This is the discipline that separates conquerors from corpses. Strategic patience is not inaction. It is the art of conserving force until its release guarantees triumph. The impulsive man cannot rule. He lunges at opportunity like a starving dog, blind to the traps hidden beneath. The patient man, however, studies the battlefield in silence. He sees not only what is, but what will be, and because he waits, he does not risk. He decides. History gives us endless examples. Think of Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. He did not seize power with rash violence after Caesar's assassination. Instead, he withdrew, aligned himself cautiously, and waited while his rivals destroyed each other. Only when the battlefield was clear did he step forward, claiming supreme authority. His restraint, not his legions, was his true weapon. Patience is a form of control. Ask yourself who has more power, the one who reacts instantly, or the one who forces others to reveal themselves while he holds back. The crowd is restless, desperate for action. They mistake waiting for weakness, but silence unsettles them because they cannot predict when or how you will move. And unpredictability is terror disguised as stillness. Psychology confirms it. Studies show that impulsive individuals surrender to immediate gratification, sacrificing long-term advantage. The disciplined, however, can delay. They can endure discomfort now for greater victory later. In power, this discipline is not just survival, it is dominance. For he who can wait longer dictates the terms of engagement. But patience is not passivity. It is not the surrender of will. It is the sharpening of it. Consider the hunter. He does not chase his prey wildly through the forest. He waits in silence, still as stone, until the prey steps into his sights. Then he strikes once, cleanly, decisively. The impatient hunter starves. The patient hunter feasts. So too in politics, in war, in life. Napoleon knew when to strike swiftly, but he also knew when to wait. Before Austerlitz, he feigned weakness, retreating and appearing vulnerable. His enemies rushed forward, certain of victory. They walked directly into his trap. It was not merely brilliance of strategy. It was the patience to let their arrogance ripen into self-destruction. Ask yourself, do you have such discipline? Could you hold your silence while others provoked you? Could you resist the urge to act when the bait is set before you? Or would your pride demand immediate motion, exposing you to ruin? The truth is harsh. Most people cannot wait. Their egos scream for recognition. Their fears drive them to premature decisions. They act because they cannot bear the weight of stillness. And so they reveal themselves, their weaknesses, their desperation. The one who waits learns everything without lifting a finger. Even in your own life, patience is power. Think of negotiations, the man who rushes to speak first, to fill silence, to accept terms. He loses before the deal is even struck. The man who holds the pause, who lets the other squirm in the discomfort of silence, forces concessions without lifting his voice. This is the hidden weapon of endurance. But beware, patience can decay into paralysis if not governed by strategy. Waiting without purpose is stagnation. Strategic patience requires clarity of vision. You must know what you want, when it should be taken, and what price is acceptable. To wait blindly is weakness. To wait with intent is mastery. Understand this: the world is full of traps set for the impatient. They lure you with promises of immediate gain. They tempt you with emotion, with desire, with fear of missing out. But those who see beyond the moment, who resist the pull of urgency, always claim the greater prize. This is why loneliness breeds patience. Without the constant noise of others demanding action, you learn to trust the slow unfolding of time. Solitude frees you from the herd's restless urgency. Alone, you master the art of waiting because you no longer fear being left behind. Ask yourself one final time: can you endure the silence long enough to let your enemies destroy themselves? Can you wait until every piece falls into place, and then strike once, so perfectly that no recovery is possible? For this is true power, not merely to act, but to act at the exact moment when resistance is impossible. And when you master patience, you are ready for the next transformation, becoming an enigma, the figure others cannot predict, cannot read, and cannot control. The invisible force that terrifies them most. What terrifies men most is not the sword, nor the army, nor the treasury. It is uncertainty, the enemy they cannot predict, the rival they cannot read, the figure who walks among them yet reveals nothing. To be an enigma is to wield a power beyond force, power born from mystery. The predictable man is doomed. His habits are known, his loyalties obvious, his motives transparent. Anyone can control him because anyone can anticipate him. The one cloaked in ambiguity becomes untouchable. For how do you strike a target that never stands still? How do you manipulate what you cannot understand? History is filled with such figures. Think of Genghis Khan. His enemies feared him not only because of his armies, but because they never knew when, where, or how he would attack. He appeared out of the steppes like a phantom, vanishing just as suddenly, reshaping entire empires in silence. His unpredictability was as terrifying as his brutality. Or consider Stalin. To his allies and rivals alike, he was unreadable. He smiled while signing death warrants. He praised men he intended to purge. No one knew his true intentions, and so all were forced into submission by fear of the unknown. His silence was often deadlier than any speech, because no one could discern whether it meant approval, suspicion, or death. Ask yourself, what do people know of you? Do they predict your moves, your words, your reactions? Do they feel comfortable, confident that they can control your choices? If so, you are already defeated. But if you can master the art of concealment, if you can speak less than you know, reveal less than you feel, and move less than you plan, you become a shadow that rules the room without lifting a hand. Psychology reveals why this works. The human mind craves certainty. When faced with ambiguity, it fills the void with fear, suspicion, and imagination. Often, the imagined threat is greater than the real one. This is your weapon. By remaining unreadable, you allow others to build their own prison of anxiety around you. They project their fears onto you, and in doing so, they submit without you ever striking. Think of the negotiator who says little. The opponent begins to talk more, to justify, to reveal, to concede. Silence is mistaken for superiority. Mystery becomes authority. The less you reveal, the more they imagine. And imagination is always more powerful than truth. But beware, this is not about vanishing entirely. To be too distant, too obscure, makes others dismiss you. The enigma must remain present, visible, but unreadable. You appear, you withdraw, you speak in fragments, you reveal pieces without ever offering the whole. The mask is always shifting, and because of this, no one dares to assume they know who you are. Look at modern power. Celebrities, politicians, even business leaders often fall not because of scandal itself, but because they became predictable, ordinary, familiar. Mystery fades, and with it, authority. The most enduring figures are those who remain partially unknown. They let the public see enough to follow, but never enough to understand. Ask yourself again, do you have the discipline to hold back, to resist the urge to explain yourself, to leave others uncertain of where they stand with you? Could you endure the discomfort of being misunderstood, knowing that their confusion is your armor? The weak crave recognition. They want to be fully known, fully loved, fully understood. But this desire strips them bare. Once exposed, they can be controlled. The strong accept being misunderstood, even feared. They understand that opacity is protection. Consider how this operates in war. A general who announces his plans invites defeat. A general who moves without explanation leaves the enemy paralyzed, hesitant, unable to commit. The same applies in life. Mystery forces hesitation. Hesitation gives you the advantage. To become an enigma, then, is not merely a tactic. It is a way of being. It requires restraint, discipline, and above all, comfort with solitude. For only the one who is alone, who needs no validation, can afford to be misunderstood. Only the one who has mastered his own silence can command others through it. And once you achieve this, you will see its terrifying effect. People will tread carefully around you, unsure of your boundaries, cautious of your silence. They will overestimate your strength, because they cannot measure it. They will obey, not because you forced them, but because the mystery of your power is heavier than visible chains. This is the final transformation of loneliness. It makes you unreadable, untouchable, dangerous. But mystery alone is not the end. For once you become an enigma, you must decide how will you use this power. To dominate? To manipulate? To reshape the world around you? That choice, dark, inevitable, awaits. Power is never taken openly. It is stolen in silence. The strongest chains are not forged from iron, but from ignorance, when people do not even know they are bound. Control is most effective when invisible. Make them believe they are free while you guide every step. Let them imagine loyalty while you design dependency. Let them think they choose, while every choice serves you. The masses will always resist the obvious tyrant, but they bow willingly to the one who cloaks domination in shadows. That is the essence of true mastery. Command without revealing the hand that commands. Ask yourself, do you wish to be led, or do you wish to lead unseen? Do you cling to comfort, or do you dare to wield influence so subtle it cannot be detected, let alone opposed? If you seek more of these hidden weapons of power, subscribe. If you have thoughts, strategies, or questions, leave them in the comments. And if you know someone ready or unready for these truths, share this video with them. Power favors those who act.